Hello guys, it's Mimberly and welcome back to the channel. So we are carrying on with the girl who fed the wolf. This is part 2. We're going to try and get one of the other endings. So I'm just going to go the opposite direction of where we want to go, and hopefully that'll be enough. So, because he should have stayed with her. I did not mean to. Okay, hold on. It's going too quick for me. Let me just slow it down and then we'll load back. The girl went after her brother. She searched and searched, calling his name into the trees, but he was nowhere to be found. I'm going to just disclaimer, I'm just going to read through everything again as normal, just so that way, you know, we don't miss anything. The forest was magic, alive in a strange, secret way. The paths carved back on themselves, stones shifted, landmarks disappeared. Sometimes a tree whispers, sometimes they listened. She knew if she kept looking, she might not come back. Caleb stops reading. He looks at you. You blink. Why did you stop? Keep going. What would the girl do? You sit up, straighter on the bed, thinking hard, excited to contribute to the story. Will she keep going after him, of course? Because he should have stayed with her. Also, is it just me or is my camera like glitch? Oh my god, my camera is like really hot. Okay. But he was dangerous. It doesn't matter. She'd accept him, even if no one else would. Caleb opens and closes his mouth like he wants to say something more. Then he goes quiet, his brow furrowing as he focuses again. The girl kept going. She wandered for days, maybe weeks. Time bent oddly in the forest. She would walk and walk, only to end up where she'd begun. She grew frustrated, angry. She shouted up at the sky, kicked over a moss-covered stone, and wept when it didn't fix anything. Eventually, she went home, but she never stopped looking for him. Oh, God, my bloody bra. Then one day, while wandering a part of the forest that felt almost unfamiliar, she found a new path. It was narrow, hidden. It hadn't been there before. She followed it, her heart beating faster with every step, until it brought her to a clearing she'd never seen. And at its center, half hidden by ivy and shadow, there was a den. A figure stood just inside the mouth of it. A man, dangerous, feral, but familiar in the way dreams are. His clothes were different. His hair wild. His eyes, still his. She called out to him. He flinched, stumbling back into the shadows, something twisted in her chest at the sight. She remembered the way he used to eat. Always hungry, always hollow. Gently, she reached into her satchel and pulled out an apple. She placed it at the edge of the den and stepped back. He waited. Then he moved, slow and cautious. He picked it up, sniffed it, then turned away. She heard the sound of his teeth sinking into flesh, juice dripping. His body trembling as he devoured it. When he turned back, his lips were shining with juice. His eyes gleamed. The girl smiled and stretched her hand towards him. Come back with me. The wolf stared at her. Then he shook his head and retreated deeper into the den. I'll come back with more food. Wait for me. He didn't answer, but he watched her. And in his eyes, though she couldn't be sure, there might have been a flicker of pain. And then he turned and disappeared into the dark. I didn't know you liked such gloomy stories, Caleb. He raises an eyebrow, snapping the book shut with an exaggerated drama. Fine. Good luck with the thunder. You gasped, clutching your pillow like a betrayed princess. No, I want to know how it ends. Should have thought about that before you insulted my literary taste. You narrow your eyes. Literary taste? You once called The Monster Under My Bed Asked Me Out a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. You just have no appreciation for the cult classics. You dog-eared every single page with a kiss scene. And I stand by it. He leans back, smug, arms crossed like he's just delivered the closing argument in a trial. You toss a pillow at him. He doesn't dodge. Be a good girl and I'll continue. You freeze mid-eye roll. I'm not a kid anymore. He's still staring. Not smug now, just steady, like he's searching for something in your face. You make a sound halfway between a groan and a sigh, burying your face in the pillow again. Ugh, just keep going. The next day, the girl returned to the forest. She carried more food in her bag, enough to feed two. The trees watched her as she passed, silent but not still. Leaves rustled about the wind. Roots seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. She felt it then, something unseen, watching her from the shadows. But when she reached the den, the wolf was already there, waiting. He stood at the entrance, eyes glowing faintly beneath the low-hanging branches. His posture was weary, but not hostile. Still, the girl didn't know what he was afraid of. She set the food down in front of him. He ate everything like he hadn't tasted warmth in years. Quick and messy, until there was nothing left. But when he finished, he was still watching her. Still hungry. Is it not enough? The wolf spoke for the first time. The food helps, but not the right way. The girl paused and thought carefully. Then she made a choice, to offer her voice. So she sat down just outside the mouth of the den and offered her voice. She told him stories about the village, about what had changed since he left, about their grandmother and the soup she used to make, about all the stars they used to count from their favorite hill. The wolf didn't seem to care for the words themselves, but her voice. He listened like it was the only sound in the world. His breathing slowed, his eyes closed just slightly. It felt like she could say anything and he would still listen. Sometimes that's all someone needs, just to hear a voice that remembers them. Caleb glances at you, expression unreadable. Or maybe he just wanted her to keep talking so she wouldn't leave. You pause, absorbing his words, and then he goes back to reading. The sun rose and fell again and again, and the girl kept walking the same path. No matter what she gave, the wolf seemed fuller, but each time she turned to leave, she heard it. The low, hollow growl of hunger. Not loud or desperate, just there, like something he no longer tried to hide. She wondered if she was the only one feeding him. The thought of someone else bringing him food, placing offerings at the edge of his den, slipping into the silence she thought was theirs, it sent something sharp and hot sliding beneath her ribs. No one else should do it. They didn't know him like she did. They didn't love him like she did. The next time she entered the forest, she looked for signs, other footprints, other scents. But all she found were the delicate tracks of rabbits, half faded in the moss. Did the wolf eat bunnies? Was that how he fed when she wasn't there? The idea settled strangely in her chest. She didn't want him fed by anything else. The wolf's hunger was hers to soothe. No one else should. Not even prey. That day, as she turned to go, she left something behind. A feather from the family's old pillow. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a single feather, faintly yellowed, soft with age, from their grandmother's pillow. From home. She left it beside the den's entrance, nestled in the moss. So he remembers where he came from. Or what he can't go back to. Caleb's voice is quiet. You're both silent for a moment as the rain taps softly on the windows. The wolf took what she left behind. He cradled it in his hands and held it close to his chest where the beating of his heart was loudest. When the hunger rose like a tide, curling sharp and endless in his belly, he gripped it tighter. It soothed him. A little. Enough to breathe through the worst of it. Enough to remember the girl's voice, her footsteps on the path, the way her eyes softened when she looked at him like he was still his old self. But hunger does not fade when fed memories. It only waits. And it was getting worse. Stronger. It wanted more. One day, the girl walked into the village to buy food for the wolf. The market was busy with the late morning chatter, the scent of yeast and roasted nuts curling in the air. The baker smiled at her, too easily. His voice was low, warm, the kind that invited her to lean in closer. When he handed her a fresh loaf, the crust still hot from the oven, his flour-dusted fingers lingered just a second too long. He told her she ought to be careful venturing so close to the woods. She laughed, a soft, breathless thing. And then she felt it, that slow, creeping pressure against her back. Not a touch, not a sound, but something else. Like a thought slipping into her mind that didn't belong there. Like the forest itself had opened an eye. She knew the sensation. It found her before, on quiet nights, in places where the air grew too still, the hush too deep, as though the world was waiting for her to notice. She never had, until now. She turned, the loaf warm in her hands. At the edge of the trees, just beyond the last cut fence post, a pair of familiar glowing eyes stared back. They were watching her openly. They had always been watching her. And this time, she saw them. She smiled towards the trees. How kind of him, she thought, to always be watching. The eyes did not blink. They followed her as she moved through the market, glowing faintly beneath the green-tinged shadow of the canopy. Others noticed. A gasp, a shriek, a ripple of fear through the crowd. And then just like that, the eyes were gone. Swallowed by the forest's edge, as if they had never been there at all. The girl didn't understand the fuss. To her, it was nothing to fear. Huh. That's kind of sweet, actually. Caleb gives you a look over the edge of the book, half teasing, half unreadable. Sweet isn't the word I'd use. Obsessive, maybe. Love always looks obsessive from the outside. His eyes meet yours, a flicker of surprise, quickly buried beneath something quieter. Thoughtful, a little too still. And then he hums, more to himself than you, and looks back down at the page. I guess. Getting some ideas, Caleb, are we? Later, the girl followed the path through the forest again. The trees whispered louder this time, their leaves rustling secrets she couldn't quite hear. Birds scattered without cause, startled by something she could not see. Something or someone was there. She heard footsteps, too light to belong to the wolf, too heavy to be her own. They didn't follow from behind or lead from ahead, but moved beside her, as if they believed they had the right to walk the path with her, as if they thought they could belong there. And then somewhere between breath and heartbeat, the footsteps vanished. The girl was alone when she reached the wolf's den. The forest exhaled softly around her. Everything was as it should be. The girl called, but the wolf didn't answer. And so, with the bread still warm in her hands, and something cold gathering at the base of her spine, the girl stepped inside the den for the first time. The air was close and heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and ash. She moved slowly, careful not to disturb the stillness, her gaze sweeping across the interior until it landed on the scattered bones along the floor, clean, brittle, stripped of everything but silence. Something burned low in her chest, a quiet spark of rage or sorrow, she wasn't sure which. She walked forward and her boot came down hard on the bones, grinding them to dust beneath her heel. Her attention shifted to something half hidden in the dark. A chest. Lids slightly ajar. She knelt and peered inside. Beside her, or behind her, a voice growled low. You shouldn't be here. The wolf stood at the mouth of the den, his shoulders braced against the frame like he was holding something back. His chest rose and fell too fast, his breath too swallow. His eyes were darker than she had ever seen them, but she didn't back away. I don't mind the dark. I want to understand. Her words didn't soothe him. He knew what she would see if she stayed. Knew that if she looked too closely, she'd understand what kind of hunger lived inside him. And once she knew, she wouldn't come back. Maybe that was for the best. Go, and never come back. The wolf said harsher than he meant it. The girl didn't answer. She turned and ran, the chill still pressing into her spine like a warning. The next day passed without her. And the wolf waited, howled into the dark, into the ache that no meal could quiet. He thought she had listened, that she had left him behind. But then, just as the sun began to fall behind the trees, she returned. Late. She didn't bring much, barely enough to fill the corner of a basket. But he took what she offered him. He ate with desperation, and when she reached for something else, he licked the crumbs from her fingers. She came late again the next day, later the day after that, and each time she brought less. As if she liked what she saw, the way his hands trembled, the way his breath caught when she stepped into the clearing, like she might not have come at all. As if she enjoyed seeing the hunger bloom in his eyes, a hunger only she could soothe. One day, when the girl opened her basket at home, she found something resting inside that she hadn't placed there. A fang. Long and white, sharp at the tip. A peace offering, perhaps. Or a warning. Or both. Put it near her bed. She placed it on her nightstand, beside a gift from her grandmother, so she'd never forget him. Caleb exhales through his nose and closes the book for a moment. Thumb pressed lightly against the page. Thoughtful. She still sees him the way she always did. Of course. He might be different now, but he's still her brother. He hums, low, almost to himself, as if that wasn't the answer he was hoping for. Before you can ask, he continues with the story. Interesting. I think we're trying to basically appeal to Caleb here to get the sexy fun time. One day, the girl noticed something was missing. A scarf. A soft linen blouse she hadn't worn in weeks. She thought maybe she misplaced them until another item vanished. Something she'd worn just days before. And then she knew something was not right. Sorry, I'm speed running this a bit faster because obviously we read it all on episode 1. That day, she brought food to the den again, but the wolf was not there. She waited, listening to the hush that settled over the clearing. The wind had shifted. The trees, usually full of rustling whispers, held their breath. The forest felt stiller than usual, as if it too was waiting. Curious, cautious, she stepped deeper into the den, her footsteps soft against the packed earth, until she stood before the old chest tucked into the corner. She opened the lid. Inside, her clothes, neatly folded. What did the wolf need them for? She reached for them. Behind her, a low growl rumbled. She turned. The wolf stood there in the entrance, shadow wrapped around his shoulders like a second skin. Why do you have my clothes? Are you cold? His eyes gleamed in the dim light. He said nothing. Do you want more clothes? I can give you more if you don't have enough. Caleb looks at you. He looks like he wants to laugh, but bites it back. Really? Well, why else would he have her clothes if he wasn't cold? Caleb just shakes his head and turns the page, but you notice a faint red on his cheeks. Oh, yeah. The wolf didn't move, but his gaze darkened. He shakes his head. You should leave. Why don't you trust me? The wolf's gaze lingered, heavy with words he would not give. He pressed his lips together, as if sealing the truth behind his sharp teeth, and at last turned his eyes away. Caleb stares at the page for a moment too long, like he's really not seeing it. Will he ever trust her completely? He fiddles with the bracelet around his wrist, doesn't look up. Maybe he doesn't even trust himself. Go. His voice held no growl this time, only weight. A final word shaped like a closing door. The girl hesitated, caught in the stillness between one breath and the next. And she turned. And the forest, quiet and watchful, swallowed her footsteps like a secret. There's definitely some dialogue changes here. The seasons turned. The wind grew sharp, and frost crept along the sides edges of the windows like silver vines. Leaves fell, and still, the wolf's hunger did not. In the village, the food grew scarce. The girl barely had enough to eat herself. At the market, stalls once again rich with fruit and bread now stood bare. When she reached the baker's stall, she found it shuttered, the hearth cold, the door hanging crooked on its hinges, swinging in the wind. No one had seen him in some time. They whispered that he had gone into the forest, that perhaps he'd followed something he shouldn't have, that the woods were watching again. The girl said nothing. She kept searching for food, anything that she could carry, even just enough for a mouthful. She didn't want the wolf to feed on something else. On someone else. It was then the village sage stopped her. An old woman, hutched and draped in shawls of frayed silken feathers, her voice like dried leaves. She told the girl that today was not like other days. This was the turning of the longest night, when the forest shifted in its sleep, when the gates between worlds closed like teeth. Anyone who entered after twilight might not return. The forest liked to keep what's crossed its threshold. The girl looked up at the sky. The sun had begun its slow descent behind the trees, staining the clouds in golden ash. Shadows stretched longer with each passing breath, and she had no food in her hands. Okay, we've got a save point there. She still tried, but food from other villagers would only arrive tomorrow. No one wanted to cross the forest that day, and no one could give freely anymore. The villagers looked at her differently now, with unease, with suspicion, as if they knew she was feeding something that they were too afraid to name. The sun was sinking fast. The forest gates would close soon. She couldn't go. She told herself that she would try again in the morning, that it was too dangerous tonight, that the hunger could wait one more day. That night, for the first time in a long while, the girl didn't go to the forest. She just stayed home. The fire burned low, shadows dancing against the walls. Her hands trembled as they rested on the handle of the basket, worn smooth by weeks of offerings. She imagined him out there, cold, ruthless, maybe feeding on something else, but she didn't lift the basket. Instead, she waited. And when morning came, she took what food she could find and followed the winding path back through the trees. The forest, bathed in the usual gold of dawnlight, seemed quieter than usual. I'm enjoying reading this to you guys, though. You're going to have to let me know, and let me know if you guys want more of this. The wolf stood at the edge of the dense shadow, watching her. But he did not move toward the food she carried. He didn't look at it at all. He looked at her. And something in his gaze had changed. She set the food down, but he made no moves to take it. I don't need it anymore. And though the girl still returned, days later, weeks, the wolf never touched the food again. But he never looked hungry. He had been fed. And now he was full enough. Oh, I hope I haven't fucked this up. A yawn leaves your lips. That's it? The wolf is finally okay? Caleb closes the book, the final page whispering shut. He doesn't look at you. Yes. You study him for a moment. There's something in the set of his jaw, the quiet in his throat. But you don't press, feeling sleep clouding your thoughts. I see. Outside, the storm has stopped. You feel your eyes slip closed, drifting into the kind of sleep that comes after storms. Safe. Weightless. Across the room, Caleb remains still. He watches you for a moment longer than he should, eyes tracing the rise and fall of your breath, the soft curl of your fingers where they rest beneath your cheek. His hands drift to his stomach and he presses lightly. Then he turns, walks into the kitchen, and takes an apple from the bowl near the sink. I think I got the same ending. The skin snaps under his teeth, the juice running down his chin and fingers, and still he eats. Okay, right, that's interesting. We chose completely different options from episode 1, and we still got the same ending. I think I'm going to have to try and do some research to find out how to get these other endings. Maybe there's a walkthrough somewhere. So, yeah, let me know if there's anything that you guys are aware about. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye!